Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. Rashida Tlaib has been censured by the House for speaking out against a genocide. What does that tell you? RFK Jr. has accidentally revealed the truth about what Israel is and taken a far right turn in the process. I'll be covering that a little later. But to talk about, and I have much more, also more on Israel's plans that are somewhat secret, but somewhat pretty much out in the open. I'll have that coming up soon. But to talk about this and more, I'm really excited. This is the first time I've had them on the show, and they have been speaking out against this genocide as well, which was a big part of the reason that I wanted to have them. And I am excited to have two of the members of Eve 6, John Siebels and Max Collins. Thanks for being here.
Hey,
Thanks for having us, Lee.
Yeah, really great to have you guys on. I guess we've been talking on Twitter for several years, but I've just never made this happen till now.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us now.
Yeah, no problem. Love your music, and I love that you've been willing to speak out in these horrific times. I mean, we're watching many days over 400 children are killed by this bombing in a day. It's over 10,500 people innocent people have been massacred. And it is wonderful to see how many people are standing up. I was just in Washington, D.C. with 300,000 people. But at the same time, it is a little dangerous to stand up and speak out about this stuff because people are risking their careers. People are getting fired. People are getting arrested in some countries. And, you know, so I wanted to start off by asking you guys about your choice to speak out about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think in some ways we're in in many ways, a more fortunate position than, some other artists. I mean, I sort of half joke that we don't totally have a career to lose. I mean, the way that the way that we're doing our band right now is pretty self-contained. We don't have a label. We don't put anything on streaming services. We do everything. This sort of writing and music project is all through our Patreon. Mm-hmm. And our live business is our live business. But I mean, we didn't do too much calculus about it, to be honest. It was like I did text Sweet Pea John. I think it was like on the 9th, and I was like, I think I got to say something here. I'm sure we're gonna get there's gonna be some blowback, and John was like, please.
Yeah.
And John is the person who brought Palestine, the Palestinian struggle, onto my radar, like 3 years ago or so. I mean, I was like, semi-aware, but also not really at all, because I'm, an American. And yeah, so this has been a cause for him for even longer. And yeah, I think we just wanted to come out and be unequivocal, because so many statements from public figures or whatever, we're not calling ourselves celebrities, but celebrities were doing this sort of like both sides game, which, knowing what we know about the dynamics at play here, we realized was only going to feed this propaganda machine to manufacture consent for exactly what's happening now. So
right.
We wanted to be really clear about it. And yeah, that's sort of what we've been doing. If there are consequences for it for us, we haven't felt them yet, aside from some people yelling at us online, which isn't anything new for us. So
and I saw you put up an is it a new song or I saw you just put up a song about losing friends and losing people for standing up for things.
Which, well, I got to say sounds so solipsistic considering everything that's going on right now. But as songwriters and a rock band, you sort of write what's kind of in your head, what you're personally negotiating at the time. And it's something that we are, and that I know a lot of other people are, where, you have people in your life who have the cable news brain rot and can't see past that. So yeah, the song's called Boom in the Frame, and it's about sort of the cognitive dissonance of it all, the frustration that you feel when people try to make you feel like you're crazy or like you're a monster or something for saying the obvious, so that's what the song's about. It's a pretty lug-headed punk rock song, but it's I don't know, it just felt right, a way to exercise some of that frustration.
John, what about you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it kind of worked out perfect because we've been chipping away at this for the last, I don't know, two or 3 weeks, getting it finished. But we've been involved with this artists against apartheid movement, and
Tell me about that.
yeah, so it's basically just a collective of artists and cultural workers. So anything from, actual fine artists to poets to writers to, cultural workers or whatever. And we had a letter that was the first thing we put out, which has over, I don't know, probably getting up to like 8,000 signatures so far.
Nice.
Of all artists and cultural workers from all over the world. So today being the Shut It Down for Palestine day, it worked out perfect that we could drop the song. And yeah, if you are an artist of any sort, you can go to againstapartheid.art. Sorry, againstapartheid.art. That's also the Instagram. You can sign on to the letter. You can see all the things that are being done today. There's like I think 100 posters that were made by different artists that you can download. Like they're just really beautiful posters for Palestine. I think that the idea is just trying to bring that cultural movement to the situation now, in the tradition of Nina Simone, Paul Robeson, like these artists that were involved in struggle, and that's one way that we can get involved as artists.
Who are not artists that we're comparing ourselves to in any
Yeah, no. But we're just trying to push the word, really. There's some really like absolutely incredible artists involved in this.
Well, don't be too humble. You guys have been at it for many years, and I know you're doing it independent now, but for a time there, you were one of the biggest bands in the world. And why do you think so? Having that insight into what the industry looks like, and both indie, but also with these big labels and how the machine works, why do you think there's really so few musicians like standing up on this issue? I know there are some, so I don't want to act like there's none, but considering how many big musicians there are out there, why is there so much silence?
Because there are real consequences, I mean, even someone like Roger Waters, who you'd think if anyone could be impervious to, getting throttled by the corporations that he's affiliated with, it would be him. But I know that he's had to deal with, I don't remember the specifics, but stuff with BMG not wanting to collaborate with him, something along those lines. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, no, and they were able to knock several of his corporate sponsors for his tours out. Yeah, he's had a lot to deal with.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are consequences, and that scares artists and people in general who have jobs, and they don't want to lose them, and they can't afford to lose them. And I sympathize with that to a degree. But what's happening right now is so fucking insane and brutal, and it's a genocide. We're all seeing it. Um, you know, yeah, it's for us. Like I said, I think we have less to lose than some, and it's also just a matter of being able to sleep okay at night. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we got to do what we can, and social media feels like the bare minimum, of course, but I do think in this moment, it's one of those moments where it just might count for something. So we're doing what we can do. We're marching, we're posting, we're making our rock and roll songs, and that's sort of the extent of our sphere of influence at the moment, but at least it's something.
Yeah, absolutely. It does feel like it's one of those moments where you just got to do everything you can and throw all the shit at the wall and see what works. Um, any thoughts on this hilariousness of Rashida Tlaib being censured by the House, basically for being the only one or one of a handful out of hundreds of politicians in the House to actually say anything against this genocide?
Yeah, I mean, it's so grotesque, on so many levels. The one Palestinian American in Congress is, getting humiliated by her colleagues for saying my people are human beings and they're being killed right now. It's not it's absolutely insane. And I do think that, being censured by uh people who are actively promoting, encouraging, and apologizing for genocide means you're good and right. And
Right.
I think most people see that. I mean, most Americans, see what's going on right now, regardless of political affiliation, and want a ceasefire. So it's just a pretty, you know, uh, it's crystal clear right now. Not that it hasn't ever been before, but that we have a government that doesn't you know care about the will of the people, and
Yeah.
is going to do their you know land grabs and resource extraction and destabilization regardless, until and unless the people make that so uncomfortable for them that something changes.
I think we are at a turning point too. Like I don't think this project of colonization can continue forever, and it absolutely like shatters me that like just all of the people dying and all of the destruction. And I mean, it's just it's really been fairly debilitating. But on the same hand, it's like I think that there is going to be a change here, and I think that the Palestinian people will get liberation, and I think that they will get their land back, and I think that this, as a national liberation struggle will succeed. So if there's any optimism, it's that to me. But damn, in the in the meantime, it's just really
Yeah.
really awful.
Yeah, I've said something similar about like, well, if there's any silver lining to this, it's that we are. I mean, we're seeing the propaganda fall apart. We're seeing
Mhm.
a lot of the world realizing exactly what that situation is. I mean, most people now know Gaza's an open air prison, and most people know far more about it now than they did a month ago.
Mhm.
However, it's kind of ridiculous to be like the silver lining of a genocide. It's
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can't even hardly talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think though, just we're at the propaganda line right now. U.S. Israel propaganda line is it's at just unsustainable, totally unsustainable levels of dissonance and just demonstrable obvious lies. We're all seeing these images. We're all aware of what's happening, and I don't think that people can be successfully gaslit under these circumstances. I really don't.
yeah. Before I run out of time with you, let's talk about what you're working on now and what music you're putting out.
Yeah, we are. Like I said, we're doing that. We started a Patreon about 4 or 5 months ago. Started doing these. I was writing these kind of essays, for lack of a better term, stories about what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. And we started releasing music on there as well. And we're not releasing music to Spotify or any of the other streaming services because they're bad. Not going to get it.
You don't want the 75 cents you'd collect from Spotify?
Well, that would be for like thousands of streams.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we're doing it all in one place, not because Patreon's some great company, fuck Patreon too, but for what we're doing right now, especially in light of Bandcamp now being gone, basically, it makes sense. So yeah, we're releasing about a song a month on our Patreon. You can download our songs from the Patreon, and then we will also have physicals, CDs and vinyl available there too. And yeah, if you want to support it, just search Eve 6 on Patreon.
And if you can't, because a lot of folks cannot sign up for another thing right now, and we get that, so just hit us up at the email eve6mail@gmail.com, and we'll gladly send them to you for free. We'd rather give them away than put them on Spotify.
Oh yeah,
very cool. Very cool. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for both coming on here, but really for speaking out and using your platform to speak out about what's going on right now, and ramifications, be what they may. It's just such an important topic, an important time. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the work you're doing as well.
Appreciate you, dude. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hope to meet you in person one day.
Seriously.
Yeah. Be well.
All right, you too.
Thanks, man.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that. That was Max Collins and John Siebels of Eve 6. Definitely check out their work. Like they said, they're putting out a song a month. So if you're looking for new stuff from them, it is there on Patreon. Let's get back to this. I'm going to get to RFK Jr. and his, you could say, far right-wing turn, but, if you really studied what he's been saying, it's not really a turn, but I'll get into that and how he is kind of, it seems almost unintentionally, admitted the truth about why the U.S. needs Israel and why the U.S. is standing by this, standing by and supporting this genocide to the level of sending munitions in secret to Israel, sending bombs, sending missiles. But before I get to that, I just wanted to say something else about Rashida Tlaib being censured in the House for basically saying Israel needs to stop perpetrating genocide, although I don't think she used the word genocide. But the House has only censured 26 people in its entire history. And many decades have gone by at times where they've censored no one. They had large chunks of like 40 years where they didn't censor anyone. And the censure is just like a public rebuke. It doesn't come with any ramifications, but still they don't use it that often. And the second one they ever did, 1842, was against Joshua Giddings for putting forward an anti-slavery resolution. For standing up against slavery, the House censured a representative. And that tells you a lot about how people are treated when they're going against the status quo of the horror show that is our government. When you are there saying, hey, we need to stop slavery, when the U.S. had slavery, you were not treated well. And when you are there saying, hey, we need to stop allowing Israel to commit genocide against Palestinians, and that is not the policy of the U.S. state, of the U.S. empire, then you are not treated well. And so it does not mean you're wrong. It often means you're in the right. But then there's also much of their censoring has been for truly horrific shit. Like you have two Congress people in 1983 for, it appears to be having sex with a House page. Now, I need to look into this story, I feel like, because it's a Republican and a Democrat who both had sexual conduct with a House page. And I don't know if it was the same page, and was it, all three of them at once, and was the page underage, and there's a lot there. But then there's also like 1856, Lawrence Kite was censured for assisting in the caning of Charles Sumner. Many of you know that Charles Sumner was beaten with a cane on the floor of the House, and this guy apparently took part in it. So you have much of the censoring, and then there's like fraud and bribery and stuff. Much of the censoring that goes on in the House is for truly horrific stuff. And then there's Rashida Tlaib, who's censured for standing up against the genocide. Just totally preposterous. Okay, let's get to RFK Jr.'s comments, which are honestly a little hard to watch. But I've been mentioning basically since he started running that on Israel, this is way before October 7th. On Israel, he is farther right. I mean, he's practically farther right than Netanyahu. I mean, he's spouting complete lies that are easily debunked about Palestinians, about Israeli policy, etc. But beyond that, he has admitted the true reason that one of the biggest true reasons that the U.S. is part and parcel to this genocide, and he's not doing it in a negative way. He's acting like this is a positive thing.
And Israel is critical. And the reason it's critical is because it's a bulwark for us in the Mideast. It's almost like having an aircraft carrier in the Mideast. It's our oldest ally.
It's like having an aircraft carrier in the Middle East. So he's saying that it is useful for the U.S. empire to have a military base in the Middle East, and therefore we should endorse this genocide. Therefore, doesn't matter if they're bombing hospitals, and they don't hit the hospitals accidentally. They call the hospitals and say, we're getting ready to bomb you. So these are intentional bombings of hospitals, of schools, of children, of journalists. They've already killed 50 journalists. And again, some of them, they actually called the journalist's house and said, we're about to bomb your house. Meaning these are intentional. It's not, whoops, we hit a journalist. It's let's bomb that journalist. Children, journalists, hospitals, clinics, the UN outlets, that are in Gaza. They've already killed something like 60 UN workers in Gaza. And here is RFK Jr. saying it's fine that they're doing all that because they act as a military base for the U.S. empire. Many people believed that RFK Jr. was great on a lot of things and just bad on Israel. And they were trying to convince people, many RFK Jr. fans were trying to convince people that you should support him because, yeah, he's bad on Israel, but that's it. He's great on everything else. But he right here is saying, no, I'm all for the U.S. empire. I'm all for every horrific thing the U.S. does, because why else would you support an aircraft carrier in the Middle East unless you wanted the U.S. to keep invading, bombing, infiltrating, harming, attacking, economically attacking places in the Middle East? He is endorsing full on the entirety of the U.S. empire.
Been our ally for 75 years. It has been an incredible ally for us in terms of the technology exchange.
When he says technology exchange, one of the biggest things that Israel is known for is not just technology like, oh, it's for Uber apps or the app that lets you take a photo of your plant and tell you what it is. No, it's the technology that's coming from Israel is surveillance technology. It is surveilling your own citizens. It's surveilling those you keep in open air prisons. It's surveilling those you keep in prison. It's also policing technology, fascist level policing technology. He's endorsing that. He's saying, look how important Israel is. They send us fascist surveillance technology. I mean, this is some crazy right-wing shit. That's what this is. So if you're looking for a crazy right-wing candidate, he's your guy. All right. Take it away, RFK.
And, in building the Iron Dome, which we paid a lot for, has also taught us enormously about how to defend ourselves.
Building the Iron Dome, building missiles to hit other people, to stop other people from hitting you. And once you have a not parallel buildup of missiles, so if one country can defend against missiles and the other can't, it facilitates endless war because the country that can defend against the missiles doesn't have to worry about bombing others, and so they just go ahead and bomb others. He's endorsing all this. It's caused missile proliferation, where you just keep each country's building up their stockpiles. Israel is an apartheid state by definition. Israel is a nuclear power, even though it's only been admitted like a couple of times in Pentagon briefings or other Pentagon paperwork. We know it's a nuclear power. However, they pretend like it's not. And he's endorsing all of this. Like, please, someone point to me the moment that RFK Jr. said any of this is a problem. The moment he said, even if he were doing the two-sidesism, the garbage two-sidesism that some people are doing, where they're like, look, both sides should just not kill children. And if they adopt that, then it'd be fine to have an open-air prison and fine to have an apartheid state. He's not even doing that. This is some far right-wing garbage.
At home for missiles. So those military expenditures are all going. 75% of it goes to U.S. companies under the agreement, under the MOU.
Okay, what he just said should be upsetting to him, because this is a guy. One of the positive things that RFK Jr. Has said, and one of the reasons he seemed like something to talk about when he first entered the race, is he talks about how corporations control our government. That's a bad thing, right? I mean, according to you and me, but also he had said it was a bad thing. Corporations control our government now. Corporations are the problem. He had said, I think he said one of his first acts of business would be to sever the connection between corporations and the state so that you do not have corporate control of the government. It's called inverted totalitarianism, ruled by the anonymous corporate state. He acted like one of his first priorities was going to be sever that. Instead, right here, he's talking about it like it's a great thing. We send aid, missiles to Israel. Well, who pays for and creates those missiles? Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Dynamics, the largest weapons contractors, the largest war profiteers in the world. So that money gets put back in the hands and the pockets of some of the richest people in the world, but people who are rich because they make weapons to kill people and kill children. Now, all of that should be problematic, right? You and I don't sit here. I mean, maybe there's a few of you in the chat who are weirdos, but who are awful human beings, but probably almost all of you. You and I don't sit here and go, what's really great about America is we dump billions of dollars into missiles that kill children, and that billions of dollars, a lot of it goes into the pockets of these really wealthy people that create new kinds of missiles here in America. Isn't that great? If you're saying that's great, you're just a sociopath. You're a maniac. You are unhinged. You have no moral core. And he's sitting here saying it's great. So not only does that make him sociopathic, but it also goes against this whole idea of he's opposed to the corporate state. The reason we dump all this money into war, part of the reason, obviously, we want to keep our hegemony and all that, but one of the reasons We dump all this money, trillions of dollars into war, and then it gets funneled. It's a money laundering machine into the pockets of corporations because those corporations own our government, which is what he said he was going to stop. But here he is endorsing it. Here he is saying it's a good thing. Here he is saying it's a positive to dump all that money into the pockets of the richest people in the world, weapons contractors who just build things to murder people. I mean, if anybody wants to defend this, please give it a go.
But if you look at what's happening in the Mideast now, Iran is now the closest allies to Iran are Russia and China. Iran also
now that's largely why are the closest allies Russia and China? Well, largely because we have tried to cut Iran off from a lot of the world. We have had economic war on them. Why do we have an economic war on Iran? Is it because they're so evil, or is it because they don't facilitate our hegemony? They are a powerful entity in the Middle East. They have a lot of oil. They are out of the control of the U.S. banking system. It's not because they have done evil things. That, like, even though we pretend that, right? We tell everybody, oh my God, Iran's so evil. Not to mention, RFK Jr. in this conversation is giving in to all the garbage, nationalistic, just bullshit that is sprays out of the faces of both Democrats and Republicans. He is saying all of the worst right-wing dumpster fire crap that is everything the Democrats and Republicans high five on. And this guy's supposed to be different? This guy's supposed to be different from them? What if you were even remotely evolved as a human being, then you see outside this nationalist fear bullshit and you say, hey, we're humans, we're humanity, we should be working together. Most Iranians are not the Iranian government. Most Russians are not the Russian government. So this whole, oh, Russia's evil and China's evil, it's so juvenile and barbaric. And I am actually going to play a clip of the GOP candidates at their debate. Was it last night, 2 nights ago? I'm going to play a clip of them and just how barbaric they are on this same front. But he is exactly the same here. I mean, exactly the same. There's no daylight between him and them on foreign policy. So why would you ever support him? If you want to support this kind of garbage, this kind of dumpster fire, then just vote for a fracking Republican. What?
Controls all of Venezuela's oil. Hezbollah is in Venezuela. They have propped up the Maduro regime.
Okay, now he's even talking in the language and the terminology of ridiculous U.S. propaganda, like ridiculous U.S. propaganda, right? It's the Maduro regime. Why is it a regime? Oh, because it's a country we don't like. That's what makes it a regime. It's not the Biden regime. It's not the Netanyahu regime, even though Netanyahu's been in power with a couple of years off for like 20 whatever years. Regime is only used to promote dumb, idiotic, juvenile, simplistic U.S. foreign policy propaganda. And here he is spitting it out of his stupid face hole. So he's just going along with all the anti-socialist country bull. Like, why is it, do you think, the U.S. hates Venezuela? Again, is it that they've done so many evil things? Please, folks, in the chat, if you'd like, list for me everybody Venezuela's bombed over the past 30 years. No, it's not because Venezuela is evil, much like Cuba. Please list all the people Cuba's bombed over the past 40 years. So it's not because they're actually harming anyone. It's because they're doing the opposite. It's because Venezuela and Cuba and many others have socialist countries where they at least attempt to take care of their people. The oil income would be going to the people of Venezuela if they were actually allowed, except for the economic war that the U.S. has perpetrated against Venezuela. That I mean, it's just it's unbelievable. And here he is. So Hezbollah, which is, sure, there's some problematic beliefs or actions by Hezbollah, but Hezbollah is also the reason that Lebanon is not owned by Israel right now. So say what you will, that's the reason. But this idea Hezbollah is in Venezuela, what are you talking about, dude? I don't even hear that shit from Biden or Donald Trump. Hezbollah is propping up Maduro. This is like Skeletor had a seizure and when he was like 75. Is like, that's what we're hearing right now.
And so they control that oil supply. BRICS, Saudi Arabia is now.
And one of the big reasons, speaking of oil supplies, one of the big reasons in the U.S., which John Bolton said publicly on Fox News, one of the real reasons the U.S. wants to get into Venezuela is to steal their oil. John Bolton said getting access to Venezuela's oil would be really great for our economy. The U.S. has stolen a lot of Syria's oil. The U.S., but again, it's not like we lack in oil. So the real reason, when you dig a little deeper, which RFK Jr. apparently has no interest in doing on this topic, when you dig a little deeper, yes, it is oil related, but the deeper reason is that the petrodollar is powered by oil supplies that are bought and sold in U.S. dollars. If Venezuela, which has one of the largest oil reserves in the world, suddenly was selling and refining all of their oil in non-U.S. dollars, in other currencies, that would greatly harm the hegemony of the United States, the global ownership that the U.S. believes we're entitled to. So we don't want Iran, also major oil supplies. We don't want Iran or Iraq, for that matter, or Syria or Venezuela pumping all their non-U.S. dollar oil out into the world, because then we aren't the hegemonic power anymore, whether the petrodollar loses its power. That's the real reason at the heart of all this. And it's hilarious because one of the biggest things that RFK Jr. has seemed to care about for years now, not just in his campaign, but for years, has been the environment. It's been one of his big things. Before you knew his name, he was an environmental lawyer. Many of the people actually literally give him credit for cleaning up the Hudson River, pushing lawsuits against corporations that were polluting it, and various other things. He seems to care a lot about animals, zero about humans, I guess. I don't know why he cares so much about animals and not about humans, at least not about Palestinians. But if he cared about the environment in a time of climate crisis, then the number one thing we could do to actually make this a continued livable world is stop fossil fuel use. But maintaining the power of the petrodollar is the opposite of stopping fossil fuel use. It is America, the strongest entity in the world, is going to do everything to make sure fossil fuels continue to be used, and to make sure the U.S. has their hand, or the U.S. government has their hand on the spigot. But he either hasn't done that equation, or he's a lunatic, or he's bought off. I don't know which one of those you want to pick, but
now joining BRICS. So those countries will control 90% of the oil in the world. If Israel disappears.
Yeah, so he's saying we need to allow Israel to commit genocide, or help Israel commit genocide, so that we can, with Israel, continue to own a large percentage of the world's oil. He also just mentioned BRICS like it's a negative thing, right? The idea that countries could join economically and actually have any power in this world outside of the U.S. empire is horrifying to sociopaths, to simplistic barbarians who think they deserve to own the world. So, just unbelievable what he's doing, what he's saying.
the vacuum in the Mideast, which is, Israel is our ambassador, it's our presence, our beachhead in the Mideast, and it gives us ears and eyes in the Mideast. It gives us intelligence. It gives us the capacity to influence affairs in the Mideast.
And even just that sentence, even if that was all he said, why is it you think the U.S. deserves to run the Middle East? Some of these are ancient civilizations that have been around for thousands of years, and the U.S. deserves to control everything that goes on there. Just that concept alone is pathetic, and it's the same kind of psychopathic, barbaric thinking that goes along with U.S. empire. I mean, so we knew he was nuts on Israel, but this lecture he just gave here shows he is nuts on all U.S. foreign policy. Like, anyway, I don't know how many of you knew he was this right-wing from the start. Maybe some of you did, but I think a lot of people did not. And a lot of people missed that. Okay, let's keep it moving. I am going to bring you some info on the reality of Gaza's forced exodus and Israel's plans for what they are doing now, this continued genocide, this continued massacre. I'm going to bring you some more revelations about what leaked documents, along with some public documents, show to be Israel's plan. I'm also going to bring you more stories than just that coming up right now at rumble.com/Lee Camp. It's free to go over there, rumble.com/Lee Camp. Watch the rest of this live stream there. You can also become a member at leecamp.net. That'll take you to my locals page. This live stream will continue on Rumble and locals right now. And I would love for you to keep supporting the show by clicking follow, clicking subscribe. If you're on Rumble, you can click the join button and become a member of the community over there. 38 cents an episode. And all of that is coming up right now only at rumble.com/Lee Camp, as well as my locals page. You get a lot of cool stuff if you join up, by the way, at the locals page. You get my new ebook, Dangerous Ideas. You get all these live streams anytime you want them. You get bonus segments like the one I'm going to do today for everyone over at locals. You